All right, so you are a high ticket coach or consultant. The name sounds amazing, but your main gripe right now is, yes, you have a product that ranges from 3K to 5K, 10K, 15, 20, 50K, even 100K for your offer. But one thing that you feel frustrated about is you always need to put out new content to get more eyeballs on your offer, and it's leaving you on this hamster wheel. This is a place I was stuck at for quite some time, always putting out Instagram reels every day, YouTube videos every week, and really feeling like I needed to put out content or the business would literally collapse on itself. So since I made the switch that I talked about today, and I'm gonna go through an exact funnel, this is what freed up my time and allowed us to do over 400,000 in a month, and we continue to scale without me posting a single piece of content. Nothing on IG, nothing on YouTube, and I don't even use any other platform. So let's get into it. This was a month where I was literally moving to a new state. I was in the middle of just getting engaged, and I was like, dude, I just don't have time to put out content. I was busy drinking and chilling. So the business still had to go, the calendars needed to be filled. So this is what we kind of did. So let's start off. The first thing I ended up doing was how we structure our funnel is so important. So what we do is we run ads. Like, a lot of people are scared of advertising because they just don't understand their numbers. But when you run ads, you end up getting a consistent stream of new leads coming in pretty much every freaking day. Why? Because you're forcing the algorithm to actually show it to people rather than posting and praying. Somebody else put it in a really good way. It's like it's a little raunchy. I'm not gonna get into it. But what we do is run ads. So the platform that I prefer personally is Instagram and Facebook. I really feel that's the platform you can spend the most on and get a great return. You can still run ads on things like Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. It's just about figuring out the platform. But at the top of this is always the ads. Now, the thing where people kind of screw up on ads, myself included, is they don't understand how to actually get a winning ad. Now, I'm gonna be honest, there's a framework. I'm not gonna go into it in this video, I'll save it for another one. But the thing about the easiest way to find a winning ad is volume, right? You need to pump out volume on ads. So what I did before going on my little mini vacation and move is I pumped out 10 to 15 ads, right? Now, all these ads were different call outs. I like to start off my ads with pretty much kind of a negative, right? I would start off saying like, hey, let's say you have a dropshipping offer. I would start off saying something like, hey, if you've been in dropshipping for the past over a year and you're struggling to get to your first 10 to 20K month, why? That call out is directly facing people who have tried their hands in dropshipping, meaning they need help, right? Or I would say somebody like a more general thing is like, hey, if you've been looking to get into e-commerce for a while, but you really don't know which business model to jump into, more of a general call out, but still calling out the avatar who I'm looking for, which is someone getting into the e-commerce space. So the hook on your ad is the most important part. It allows you to decipher who you should be talking to and who isn't. It allows the algorithm to show it to more of those people. So your hook, get it right. Only way to get a good hook is to make different hooks. So when we shot these 10 to 15 ads, everything had a different call out, a different flow to it. And what it allowed us to do is pump out all 15 ads on a low ad spend and then find the winner. Now, where people kind of screw this up is they'll have a winning ad and they'll just let it freaking go till it burns out. But you have to think about it. Whatever platform you're on, this is social media marketing. Social media loves new content. So when you jump in the game and you put out an ad and you let it what you call fatigue, meaning that it just doesn't perform as well. Like your CPMs, the cost for it to show to 1,000 people skyrocket, or your click-through rate goes down, or whatever metric starts collapsing on itself. What happens is you have to now scramble to put out new ads. You always want to be prepared for that. So out of these 10 to 15 ads, it was 15 ads, what happens is about 3 to 4 were winners, meaning they were driving all the sales, all the conversions. Now, what you don't need to do is what some people try to do. They want to, as soon as it starts fatiguing, go shoot more of those ads. Let me give you a tip. One of the easiest things you can do to refresh an ad when it is fatiguing is to literally redo the same exact ad with just different things like different B-rolls, different editing style, little things that lets the algorithm know, oh, this is a new ad. So let me give it new ad metric, right? So that's all we did. We got our 3 to 4 winning ads and we refreshed them with new B-rolls and new editing style as soon as they started fatiguing. This gives so much longevity to your winning ads. And it gives you time to actually dissect what was a winning ad. And then when it actually fully fatigues that you can't do anything with it, you're able to now replicate it. But this literally 3-4x is your winning ad output because you can create so many more versions of that winner. So when we run these ads, right, we're running a bunch, we're getting our winners, we're putting them to the side, we're recreating different versions of it. In case our ads ever fatigue, we have these on the back burner so I don't feel rushed to go shoot new ads. And this allowed us to literally have a month where when my ads start fatiguing, we could just plug and play a new one. Now, you always want to have your ads batched on the front end, get them done. Like, don't just shoot like randomly, sporadically. You always want to have that backlog so you never run into a place where you're burning freaking capital. So ads is what really is the name of the game when you first kick off on this one. My favorite part about this is ads have a lot more longevity than regular Instagram or YouTube content unless it goes super, super viral. And you can always plug and play them and force more traffic really to your offer. Now, where do we run these ads to? Well, what I do is I run them to a webinar. Why is that? So when we first started, what I was doing is I was running to a VSL funnel. VSL funnels, I like them. They're really simple. You can create one VSL and it can last forever. But what we realize is as time goes on and more coaches get in the space, there's a trust recession. Unless you're in a completely new market, like you have an AI product where there isn't a lot of competition, there's going to be more and more people having a very similar offer to you. So how do you separate yourself? Well, it's very hard to do on just an ad and just a VSL. It's possible, but very hard, unless you create a completely unique offer. Now, while in our space, in the e-commerce, there wasn't a unique offer to make, right? We couldn't come up with one. So what we did was, let's get on a live webinar where we get to actually get in front of people, get to talk to them, get to build with them, and then show that our expertise all in that webinar. Live webinars in 2025 and going forward, I think, for as long as something changes, but nothing right now. This allows you to build what I consider to be the core authority, right? You get to promote yourself as that legit like authority because you're teaching something live, which not a lot of people can do. Now, the caveat to this is you actually have to be okay at presenting. You have to actually know your shit. Like you can't just go in there like all random and unorganized. But live webinars is how we drive traffic. How we start off is intro/authority. When you're dealing with cold traffic, people that haven't met you before, they need to know that you're that guy or that girl, right? So you always want to build that authority early on. It's going to come in the form of kind of your story, how you got there, what you're currently doing. But by the end of that intro, they should be like, okay, I'm zoned in because this person knows something that I clearly don't know. And this is what builds them to actually stay to the next part. Now, the next part is what I call a reframe or opportunity, right? You need to now, after you do that, show people what is this thing that they are missing. If you have a biz op offer, you have to show why this business is so big, why they need to be in this model versus all the other things they can be spending their time and money on. This is a reframe from their current way of thinking. Let's just say they have a W-2 job. They're thinking like, hey, I'm going to walk up the corporate ladder. You got to show them why, don't do that or don't do this. Do this. You have to build the value in terms of the opportunity. This is one of the shakiest parts, in my opinion, of most people's webinar because you can't dwell too long because you're going to hear a bunch of comments in the thing like, yo, get to the point, blah, 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 la, 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 la. Like, get to the point. So you don't want to spend too much time in it, but you have to have a heavy impact on why this opportunity is so big so that people can actually focus on section 3, which is the education. Right? Now you get into teaching mode. Right? You want to pick between 3 to 5 things to teach. Thing about this is you have to understand your demographic. If you're going with very wealthy demographic, like we don't, but I like to sell to the rich. I like to sell to people that got money because it allows me to charge more. It allows me to have better margins and provide a better service rather than charging not a lot. I'll talk a little more about this. But you only want to teach 3 to 5 things at most. You're not trying to overwhelm them. They get confused. There's so much information, but you still want to deliver a lot of value in this section to the point where they can see how to get from step A, where they are, all the way to step Z, where you are, right? You're supposed to do this education component almost like a transformation. Now, 3 is my favorite number. Well, not really, but it's my favorite number in terms of this. 5 is if you have really small points. If you're selling to rich people, you want a smaller webinar, meaning you want it to only take about an hour for the education component, right? When you're selling to the general population, you want to extend that. Because what happens? Rich people make decisions like this, right? They got money. Money is not the problem. They just want to know, is it for them? Is it not for them? If it's for them, let's go. If it's not for them, they're out, right? But the Gen Pop, they have to be some of the most skeptical people in the world. So you need to build a tremendous amount of trust. And the longer you teach, the more they trust you. So what I like to do, my webinars right now run close to like 2.5 hours a lot of the time. And I do them either once a week or twice a week. And the reason I do these is because this is our main vehicle right now. We have other channels, we have some organic, we have stuff like that, but this is the main money vehicle. This is what keeps the calendars packed for our sales team. If you can follow these 3 steps, I'm sorry. Well, we got to get to step 4, which is the pitch. My apologies, right? Now we got to pitch them. At the end of all that teaching, right, you've provided a bunch of value. You've solidified yourself as the authority. You've reframed them out of thinking what they're currently doing in their life is the right thing. And then you've introduced this new opportunity. Now it's for them. Now it's to pitch them what you do. Throughout this whole thing, you should be sprinkling in results, not just your results, right? You have clients, you have students, sprinkling their results, sprinkling their stories. Build a tremendous amount of trust, because I might have a story about someone that's a little older. Like I give stories about people in their 50s that have done this business, people in their 20s, people in their 60s, people in their 40s. Why? Because everyone has a different avatar in your audience. You're selling one to many. Not everyone has the same experience. So the more stories I can sprinkle in, all it takes is 1 or 2 stories where someone's like, oh, that's very similar to my case. Now I want to move forward and actually listen a little more, right? So you always want to sprinkle in stories throughout here. When you go into the pitch, I like to pitch pretty hard, right? I like to do things like dropping the freaking price of the program. I can't tell you how many people don't do this, and it's kind of crazy to me, because what happens is you can have people that book a call, do all of these things, and they don't know how much your thing costs, and you need a really good sales team to now position them to spend whatever amount of money you're talking about for your program. When you drop price, everyone's coming on the call like ready to go. They know what it is. When they booked that call, they knew what the price is. So it's super, super important, in my opinion, to let people know what the price is. We will do a test where we do it without it, but right now it's been killing for us. I don't see any reason to deviate from there. It will get more calls on the calendar, but it might not get us the right calls on the calendar. So I'll keep you updated if anything changes in that regard. But right now we drop that freaking price. We pitch hard. We let them know, dude, this is what we do in here, and we add in a risk reversal. This is not something that you need to do. And in 2025 and onward, not a lot of people rely on a risk reversal as much, but me personally, I use a risk reversal a lot, because people want a way at, if they are spending a ton of money with me, what happens if I don't get my result? So it's really important, in my opinion, to really hone in on your risk reversal. What does it look like if something happens? What if it look like if something doesn't happen, right? And that's what allows people the confidence to move forward quicker and push through your sales cycle a lot quicker. So yeah, we're running ads to live webinars. This is how we freaking do it. And we continue to do it. And this is what allows me to do all of this without shooting a lot of content. All throughout this top process between ads and webinar, we are retargeting, right? Now, retargeting for us is we want to put content in front of people. Why is that? Because there's a thought process, right, that people have used, that people need about 7 hours of content from you to be able to trust you enough to buy. Now, let's think about this, right? If I'm doing a webinar and my webinar is only an hour or 2 hours, they might need to show up to like 3 webinars to convert if I didn't do this method. But what I'm doing is I'm like force feeding them a bunch of my content. I'm talking about old Instagram content, old YouTube videos, a bunch of stuff, so they almost have like this face familiarity prior to coming to the webinar. So before that, they might have consumed about an hour or 2 of my content, depending if they watch a YouTube or Instagram. And then you add that in with the live webinar, boom, we're over half of the way there in terms of how much communication and content they need in front of their face. Now, at the end of the webinar, we got 2 options, right? We can either go for a book a call, or we could go for checkout link, right? Personally, what I like is book a call. Some people, what they like to do is do a checkout link. Now, the thing about checkout link, which there's a benefit to it, is you immediately recoup your spend, whatever you spend in terms of marketing. Now, the bad thing about that, from my experience, is we tried this for a while. We had a $2,000 checkout link, and we tried $1,500, tried $2,000, we tried all these things. And while it was a quick recoup for cash, instead of waiting for a sales call, sales cycle, blah, 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 What it did is it brought in the wrong avatar and too many of the wrong avatars. When you do this, you have to make sure your fulfillment can handle that many people who are going to be checking out. You have to make sure that the people that can literally just book are actually the type of people you want in. There's no buffer right there. So let's say you have 20 people close at a 2K price point. Boom, you made 40K. You got 20 more people in your program. Can your fulfillment handle that? Can you handle 12 more people going through your onboarding process, all of that stuff? If you can, you could try this. If not, you cannot, right? And for us, it was something when we tried this, we were bringing in people who would buy pretty emotionally because they're ramped up, and then they would have a lot of buyer's remorse, like literally 2 seconds after, right? 10 minutes after. And what that allowed is for more chargebacks, the wrong avatar coming in, and us not having our sales team act as like a buffer to really go in depth into what it means like to be successful in our program. And once we switched over to a book a call model, that whole game changed. Now, what some people use a checkout link for is they'll put a price point on a lower ticket package, $1,500, $997, $1997, whatever. And then they use their onboarding call as an upgrade call, where the money is not made on the front end a lot of times for them. What they do is that everyone that rolls up, that's where the money is made. That checkout link is used to a lot of times liquidate ad costs and put some money in your pocket, but the majority of the money is made on the upgrade call. Now, I like that model a lot, and I think it does work, but for us, what it was doing is it was extending our upgrade cycle. Let's think about it. You spend $2,000 on a program. You might not be ready to spend $5K or $10K, right? You might think you already have your answers done in that $2K program. You might go through it for like 3 weeks and be like, hey, I really want more one-on-one help. Let me upgrade now. But your sales cycle has now dramatically increased because boom, 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 boom. All throughout this, you thought you had the result. And it took you a few weeks to go through the material and get into it. Other thing is that the less someone pays for something, the less serious they take it. The higher you charge, the more you charge someone and be okay with charging them more, the more serious they take it. So we always aim for high in the market, right? And then we use any like lower ticket programs as a drop sell. So I really drop one of our highest ticket programs on it throughout, and then we can drop sell if needed. This is what allows us to get the best avatar into our program time and time again. So we go with the book and call model. Now in the book and call model, right? What would happen is I'm dropping the price, people are scheduling calls. We're able to get down to actual call. Now, what we do right here is we split this. We have qualified and non-qualified. And the qualified leads are people that when they go through the form are saying they have financial resources. And then the ones that are not qualified are ones that don't say have financial resources enough to get into our program. We still let both of them book. Now you might say, why? They're not qualified. Thing about forms is people lie all the time. If I got 100 grand to my name, I might say I have 2 grand because you might try to offer me something cheaper. If I have 0, I still want to get on a call, so I might say I have 5 grand or something like that. So people lie on type forms all the freaking time, any forms. So what we do is, not everyone lies, so we separate them. The qualified leads get to book, the people who said they're qualified get to book earlier. The unqualified book later. Why is that? Let's say you go to a webinar, right? You're hype, you understand everything, you're ready to rock. If your call is the next day, you remember everything. It's so fresh. You're moving through the pipeline super duper quick. So you're ready to go. Now, let's say you booked a call and your call is not we don't extend past 3 days, but let's just say hypothetically, I didn't know what the hell I was doing and I had like a 7-day booking window. You had a webinar on a Sunday. Your call is not until next Saturday, Sunday or Monday. You might have forgot every freaking thing we talked about in that webinar, and I have to keep you in the loop with a bunch of remarketing, communication with our team, etc., to keep you looped and to show up. Life happens. So we always want to push the qualified people up so that we make the brunt of the money back as quick as humanly possible. The less financially qualified, we push them back a little bit so that we have time to actually get into our setting process and make sure they actually have resources for any of our programs before getting on a call with them. Now, this brings us to a super important part, which is the setting process. So how we implement the setting process is back when we go up to ads, after someone books or schedules RSVPs for the webinar, throughout this whole process, we have setting going on. Now, setting is not from our setters right now, it's from a virtual team. And what that means is the more you're responsive to someone in the SMS and emails, what happens? You're building rapport, you're answering questions, you're doing a bunch of stuff, which increases your show rate to the webinar. Right now, we are like way over KPIs. If you never ran one of these, average KPIs, maybe like 15, 18% show rate. We're at damn near like a 28 to 30% show rate on webinars just because we injected this bad boy into this, right? And this is huge. This is something that some of the people we work with, we always get this in place, because if you could go up 13, 14 points on your webinar show rate, that's a lot more people that are there to actually get to your webinar and then eventually get to your pitch. So this has been a huge lever to pull, having setters right there, getting in contact with everyone prior to the webinar, following up with them, asking them whatever questions they had, and really building that in. And it's something that's really low cost, but highly effective. On the webinar itself, what you want to make sure you're doing is actually answering questions all throughout the webinar. We have one of our coaches in there answering questions, keeping everyone engaged. Why? Because if someone feels like the questions are not getting answered, they have to wait for the Q&A. Yeah, that works. Some people will stay, but guess what? If your questions are periodically being answered, it's engaging. I'm calling you out by name. We're literally treating this like a live coaching with 200, 300 people. Guess what? Most of them stay to the pitch, so you have more book calls. When you're able to implement that, something like that, we took our live webinar, what you call a retention rate, how many people stay to the pitch, from like 60% to on average 85 to 90%. Huge difference, right? Now you're talking about just having somebody in there. You can pay your team. We pay like a flat amount where they're engaged. So as you're presenting, everyone is looped in, everyone's hype, everyone's getting through it, and I'm calling them out. Boom, 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 boom. We're making it live. We're making it lit. So everyone is going there and actually making it to the end of the webinar. When you do these two things, you have more people on your webinar, more people staying on your webinar, and then boom, you get down to the point where inevitably more people book a call. Now the qualified leads are getting sent back to the Pixel. The non-qualified leads, they're still booking calls, but no Pixel for them, right? Why is this important? If you let everyone book a call, right? Facebook does not know who is qualified and who is not. So they'll just continuously find more people that book calls. But if we can segment that list, have the people that are going back to the Pixel getting fed to it that, yo, these are the people that are actually qualified financially based on what they said. I'm going to find you more of this type of people, right? Not everyone's going to lie. The ones that tell the truth, we'll find you more of those. On top of that, they're getting the early booking. So they're getting an early slotting encounter, which makes them more likely to close, while the financially qualified don't get fed back to the Pixel. And then on top of that, they're booking a little further out, which gives your setting team and your closers time to actually financially qualify them before the call and cancel them if it's like there's nothing we can do about that. This is how I use the book a call method to actually get a tremendous amount of calls on our calendar. I think on average we're doing like maybe 140, 150 calls a week on average, and we're looking to ramp that up. Now, on the checkout link, you can get similar results. Honestly, it's not something that I didn't want to demonize too much because a lot of people use it and I like it. The benefit is no sales team commission on those closes or straight cash money in your pocket, and you're gonna get a higher volume of people in your program. But always think about, we're not gonna talk about fulfillment today, just marketing, but always think about, can I fulfill on what the freak I am, how many people I'm getting into my program? What does that mean in terms of onboarding? What does that mean in terms of coaching calls? What does that mean? What does that mean? And if it's something that you can do, great. It wasn't something that we can do. It's not something we're interested in. And the last part about the checkout link is when you are using a checkout link, right? And you're getting sometimes the wrong people through your funnel, right? What do these people do to your community, right? How does it actually, what does it do to your community? And then also, does it cannibalize your higher ticket offer? Why? When you're usually selling something for 10K, 15K, and now they finally have a 3K offer, a lot of people are just gonna go for the cheaper thing, even if they have the money, because they haven't built that rapport with you. So does it take away the sales that should have been 10K and push them down to the ones that not anymore? Now, throughout this whole system, what else are we doing? Guess what? We're retargeting these bad boys a little more. We love retargeting all the way through the funnel, different type of content. Now, this is going to be at the front end, a lot of trust building content, right? A lot of questions about what is Amazon, in our case, what is Amazon, whatever your offer is, right? A lot of trust building stuff there to make them show. Now, when we get down to the retargeting content over here, what's the difference? Well, when we get over here, we want to handle objections. Objection-based content. Now, how are we figuring out what the objection is? Well, guess what? From all of these calls, we scan them. We scan through these calls. Feed them into AI. Feed them into like 20, 30 calls. What are our top objections? What are holding people back from actually being able to push the needle forward? And then we shoot content over here that handles all those objections. So it might be, okay, well, I don't know if this business model is oversaturated. I'm going to show why it's not. New people come into the business. Oh, I don't know exactly how this model works. This content is going to be like, okay, this is the simplest 3-step version of how this business model works. We're trying to handle all objections prior to the call. So it serves the purpose of putting your face in front of them more, making them force feed that 7 hours worth of content, but also it allows you to pull back and also let them handle all the objections that they would have probably on a call. Now, when you do this, this is exactly what we did. What happens is you put yourself in a predicament where you are turning this paid cycle into what feels like an organic cycle, where someone can go in from, let's just say your webinar is 3 days out. Someone can go from day one, webinar here, they had a bunch of content here, have the webinar, get on a call, bunch of content in between the webinar and the call that handles objections, and guess what? That speeds up your sales cycle and allows you to close more deals. It is that simple. I know this was a ton of information. I didn't go too in depth with certain topics, but it's something we say for our clients, really. If you're someone that is feeling stuck in this content hamster wheel and you're really looking to get your business to 100, 200, 300K per month and you want the exact roadmap, there's gonna be a link below. You can schedule a call with me or my team. I can do a deep dive into your business and see what you freaking need to take this to the next level. So I hope this was super helpful. Make sure to subscribe. We're gonna have a ton of these videos on the channel, just breaking down as we scale this up to $1 million a month with ourselves and some of the offers we're working on. So hit that link below, subscribe, and if you wanna book a call to find out more how we can help you scale this up, that link is there too. See you soon.